Ilara stepped out onto the observation deck of the colony, her eyes scanning the pale horizon. The twin suns of Veralia Prime were just beginning to dip below the jagged mountains, casting long shadows over the sprawling settlement. Life on the colony had always been quiet, predictable, almost peaceful, but tonight something felt off. Commander Rylan appeared beside her, his usual calm expression slightly strained. "Ilara," he said, his voice low. "They're coming." Ilara blinked, confused. "Who's coming? What do you mean?" Rylan did not answer immediately. He stared at the horizon as if trying to see beyond the veil of reality itself. "You'll see soon enough," he said finally, a hint of unease in his tone. Ilara frowned. Rylan had always been steady, even in danger. If he was uneasy, then something serious was approaching. She tried to ignore the chill crawling up her spine, focusing instead on the colony's systems. Lights flickered briefly across the observation panels. Sensors had been picking up unusual activity for hours. Small energy fluctuations, strange movements in the outer territories, but nothing concrete. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. It was faint at first, almost unnoticeable, but it grew steadily, vibrating through the metal floor beneath their feet. Ilara grabbed the rail, her knuckles white. "What is that?" she asked. Rylan did not answer. Instead, he pointed toward the distant hills. The hum seemed to originate from there. Shadows shifted across the rocks long and fast. At first, Ilara thought it was an illusion, the light playing tricks on her eyes. But then she saw them. Large, dark shapes moving with purpose. Shapes that were too organized, too intelligent to be wild creatures. Her heart pounded. What are they?" Rylan shook his head. "I don't know. But whatever they are, they're not here for a visit." Before Ilara could respond, a scream cut through the air. High-pitched, sharp, and terrifying. It came from the outer colony perimeter. Ilara froze. The sound was unlike anything she had heard before. It wasn't just fear, it was pain. Urgent, desperate pain. Rylan's hand gripped her shoulder. "We need to move. Now." The two of them ran down the corridors toward the command center. Along the way, colony workers were scrambling, eyes wide with panic. Alarms blared, red lights flashing. The usual hum of life was gone, replaced by chaos. Inside the command center, screens flickered with sensor data. The readings were impossible. Massive energy spikes, movement patterns that suggested intelligence, and strange distortions in the atmosphere. The colony's automated defenses were activating, but they were slow to respond. Ilara leaned over a console. "They're huge and fast," she whispered. Rylan nodded grimly. "And we don't know what they want. All we know is they're coming closer." A sudden jolt shook the building. Lights went out for a moment before emergency systems kicked in. People screamed and equipment rattled violently. The colony's communication lines were down, cutting them off from the outposts. Ilara swallowed hard. "How do we stop them?" Rylan's gaze was steady, but his jaw tightened. "We don't stop them. Not yet. We survive first. We understand second." Outside, the shadows were moving faster now. They seemed to glide across the rocky terrain, almost floating above the ground. Even from a distance, Ilara could feel their presence. It was as if the air itself had grown heavier. Then another scream, closer this time. It came from the eastern perimeter where the hydroponics domes were located. Ilara's stomach twisted. She knew some of the workers there personally. Rylan grabbed a tactical map. "We'll split into teams. You go with the rescue unit to the east. I'll stay here and coordinate defenses. No one dies if we can help it." Ilara nodded, trying to mask the fear rising in her chest. "What about them?" she asked quietly, nodding toward the shadows outside. Rylan hesitated, then said, "They're not human. They don't think like us, but humans can adapt. Humans can survive. That's what matters." The words struck a chord in Ilara. Even now, with terror in the air and chaos all around, She felt a spark of determination. Humans could survive. Humans could fight. The rescue team moved quickly, hopping into armored hover vehicles. The wind whipped through her hair as they sped toward the screams. The closer they got, the more terrifying the scene became. People were running blindly, tripping over rocks and debris. The shadows moved with terrifying precision, surrounding small groups, forcing them back. Ilara's heart pounded, but she focused. They had to reach the workers before it was too late. She saw them, trapped inside strange, glowing pods that had appeared seemingly from nowhere. The pods pulsed with light and faint screams came from inside. The workers were alive but paralyzed, unable to move. Ilara's hand shook as she tried to override the pod systems using her portable console. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and the hum in the air grew louder. Finally, one pod opened with a hiss. A worker stumbled out, dazed but alive. "This way," Ilara shouted, helping the worker into the hover vehicle. They had to get back before the shadows noticed their interference. But as they moved, the air shimmered strangely. The shadows seemed to split and reform, moving faster than ever. One of the team shouted, "They see us!" Ilara's mind raced. "Hold your positions. Stay together." They barely made it back to the colony perimeter. The shadows hesitated, at the edge of the protective force fields, as if sensing the humans' determination. Then they retreated slightly, disappearing into the hills. Breathing heavily, Ilara looked around at her team. Everyone was shaken, but alive. For now, Rylan joined them, his expression grave. "This is just the beginning," he said. "We need to prepare. They're coming, and next time, they won't hesitate." Ilara nodded, staring at the horizon where the shadows had vanished. The suns had set completely, and darkness now stretched across the mountains. She could still hear the faint echoes of the screams reminding her that the threat was real, intelligent, and terrifying. But beneath the fear, she felt something else. Human strength, human courage, and human determination. They had survived tonight, and they would survive the nights to come. No matter what came, humans would fight, humans would endure, and humans would adapt. As the colony lights blinked back to life and the alarm systems quieted down, Ilara whispered to herself, "We're ready. Whatever comes, we're ready." And somewhere beyond the mountains, in the darkness, the shadows waited, watching, learning, and soon they would come again. The colony was tense the next morning. The twin suns rose over Verelia Prime, but there was no comfort in the bright light. Every shadow seemed to move with intent, and every gust of wind brought a reminder of last night's terror. Ilara walked along the observation corridor, her mind racing. Commander Rylan had ordered heightened patrols and strict security. Every drone, sensor, and defensive system had been activated, but even with all the technology, she felt the same unease she had felt the night before. "They're faster than anything we've ever seen," Rylan said, joining her. His voice was calm, but there was a steel edge to it. "We need to know what they want. And if we can't communicate with them, we need to understand them." Ilara frowned. "Understand them? We barely survived last night. How can we—" "Understand?" Rylan turned to her, eyes sharp. "Humans adapt. Humans survive. That's how." She nodded, trying to draw strength from his words. Humans had survived countless disasters on countless worlds, and she would not let fear control her. The sensors picked up movement in the distance. Ilara squinted at the screen. Shadows were emerging from the hills, more organized now, moving in patterns, not random, strategic. "They're coming closer," Ilara whispered. The first wave arrived at the colony outskirts just as the sun reached its peak. The shadows solidified into shapes, large, towering beings unlike anything humans had catalogued. Their bodies were sleek and dark, almost reflective, and they moved with precision, silent yet commanding. The colony's automated defenses activated immediately. Plasma barriers formed, drones buzzed into the air, and the hum of energy shields filled the atmosphere. But the aliens seemed unfazed. They halted at the perimeter, studying the humans like curious predators, and then began probing with strange devices that glowed faintly. Ilara's heart pounded. "They're intelligent," she said aloud, more to herself than anyone else. Rylan nodded. "Yes, and that makes them dangerous." A sudden, sharp scream came from the central plaza. Panic erupted among the colonists as the aliens' devices began to scan the area. Humans moved frantically, trying to avoid detection. Alara grabbed a nearby worker and pulled them behind a protective barrier. "Stay calm."
"Follow me,"
she shouted. The aliens' devices emitted pulses of light. When the pulses touched the ground, small plants shriveled and drones were disabled instantly. It was clear the aliens could manipulate technology and energy in ways humans didn't yet understand. Alara glanced at Rylan. "We're outmatched." He shook his head. "Not outmatched. Outnumbered, yes. Outmatched? Not yet. Humans have something they don't understand. Creativity." The commander's words reminded her of what she had always admired about humans. They could face impossible odds and find a way to survive. Tonight, she would need every bit of that ingenuity. Alara and Rylan moved with a small team toward the eastern perimeter. Their mission: scout the aliens, learn their weaknesses, and protect the colony workers trapped outside. The terrain was rough, sharp rocks, deep craters, and narrow ravines. But the team moved quickly, relying on experience and instinct. As they approached the perimeter, the aliens noticed them. A low, resonating hum filled the air as the creatures turned. Their eyes, or what appeared to be eyes, glowed with faint light scanning the humans. "Hold your position," Rylan ordered. "Do not fire unless I give the signal." The aliens paused, then advanced in unison, their movement eerie and precise. Alara could feel the tension in the air as if time had slowed. Then the first contact. One of the aliens extended a device toward the ground. A beam of light shot out, creating a small hovering orb that scanned everything in its path. The humans ducked, but the orb was fast, calculating, anticipating their moves. Ilara's mind raced. We need a distraction, something that moves faster than their sensors. She grabbed a nearby hover drone and hurled it toward the orb. The device whirred and exploded in a burst of light, momentarily blinding the alien scanning system. The team seized the opportunity to advance, dodging shadows and avoiding detection. They reached a small grove where workers were hiding. Most were unharmed but terrified. Children clung to their parents, eyes wide with fear. Ilara knelt, speaking softly. "You're safe now. We're here to help." One worker, trembling, whispered, They came out of nowhere. We couldn't move. And then the light. It paralyzed us." Ilara's stomach tightened. The pods she had seen the night before weren't random traps. They were part of the aliens' method of controlling the humans. Survival depended on quick thinking, and quick thinking depended on teamwork. Rylan joined them, scanning the area. "We need to move them back to the colony. The longer we stay here, the higher the risk." The team formed a protective circle around the workers, moving toward the hover vehicles. The aliens noticed and began closing in. Their shadows stretched, gliding over rocks and across the terrain with unnerving precision. Alara felt fear claw at her chest, but she forced herself to focus. "Keep moving. Stay in formation." The aliens adjusted instantly, predicting the humans' moves. One of them reached out with a long, glowing appendage, disabling a hover vehicle. Sparks flew and a worker screamed. Rylan fired a small energy pulse at the alien, forcing it to recoil. "Go, now!" he shouted. The humans ran, carrying what they could and leaving damaged equipment behind. The aliens advanced but did not pursue recklessly. They observed, calculated, and waited. Alara glanced at the horizon. Other colonies nearby had noticed the disturbance. Distant lights flickered, other humans preparing defenses. She realized the aliens were not just attacking one colony. They were studying all of humanity's presence on this planet. Her mind worked frantically. "They're not just attacking, they're testing us, learning about us," Rylan nodded. "Exactly. And humans learn fast. Faster than they expect." The team made it back to the colony perimeter, breathing heavily. The workers were safe for now. The aliens had retreated to the hills as if acknowledging the humans' resilience. But Alara knew it was temporary. "They'll be back," she said quietly. Rylan put a hand on her shoulder. "Yes, but next time we'll be ready. Humans adapt, Alara. Humans survive. And humans fight back." Alara nodded, feeling a surge of determination. She had seen the aliens' power, their intelligence, and their precision. And yet she also saw the strength of her people, their courage, creativity, and solidarity. As the sun set again over ViewRship, the colony prepared for the night. Drones patrolled the perimeter, defenses hummed, and humans moved with purpose. Fear was still present, but it was accompanied by resolve. Ilara stood once more on the observation deck, staring at the distant hills where the shadows had disappeared. The wind carried a faint hum, a reminder of the alien presence, but she whispered to herself, feeling the courage that came from humanity itself. We will survive. No matter what comes, we will endure. And somewhere beyond the mountains, the shadows watched, calculating, waiting, and preparing for the next encounter. The night on Veralia Prime was silent, except for the low hum of the colony's energy shields and the distant wind whispering over the jagged hills. Yet the silence was deceptive. Everyone in the colony knew the aliens had not gone far. They were out there, watching, learning, waiting. Ilara paced in the command center, staring at the large display screen showing the outer perimeter. Her mind replayed the screams from the previous day, high-pitched, desperate, human, but different. The sound had cut through her sleep, her focus, her thoughts. It haunted her. "Commander," she said, turning to Rylan, "we need to understand those screams. They're not random. They mean something." Rylan's brow furrowed. "You're right. And that's what worries me. They're intelligent. They don't scream for no reason. The last time we heard that, people were trapped in those pods, alive but immobilized." Ilara swallowed hard. Her hands shook slightly. "We have to go back. We have to see what's happening. Help them." Rylan studied her. The determination in her eyes reminded him of what humanity was capable of. Courage, even when faced with impossible odds. He nodded. "We'll take a team, but we move carefully. Stealth first, observation second, action last." A small group gathered quickly. Technicians, medics, and a few soldiers. They equipped themselves with portable energy shields, scanners, and compact weapons, just in case. Ilara joined them, her pulse racing. The outer perimeter was dark, but the colony lights illuminated the first few meters. Beyond that, the terrain sloped down into rocky ridges, valleys, and scattered craters. The team moved quietly, avoiding open spaces. Every shadow could be a threat. Every gust of wind could hide movement. Then they heard it. A scream. Faint, but unmistakable. Human. It came from the northern ravine. Ilara's stomach twisted. The sound was closer than yesterday, more urgent, more desperate. "Over there," she whispered, pointing. Rylan nodded. "Split into pairs. Keep the lights low. Stay silent." They advanced carefully, scanning with handheld sensors. The readings spiked as they approached a clearing. Ilara froze. There they were, several human workers trapped inside strange pods. The pods glowed faintly, pulsing with energy. The humans inside were alive, their faces twisted in fear and helplessness. Ilara's heart clenched. "We have to get them out," she said urgently. Rylan studied the pods. "It's not simple. These devices are alien. If we touch them wrong, it could kill them, or worse." Ilara looked around. The aliens weren't visible, but she could feel their presence as if the air itself was alive with watchful attention. The hum in the energy field of the pods pulsed stronger. They were aware. They were observing. "We'll need to decode the pattern," Rylan said. "The pods are controlled by pulses of energy. If we can match them, we can free the humans." Ilara knelt beside a pod, her scanner in hand. The glowing energy formed a pattern, complex but not impossible to understand. She studied it, her mind racing. "I think I see it. A rhythm. It repeats. If I synchronize the override, it might release them." Rylan nodded. "Do it. Carefully." Ilara adjusted the controls. The first pod's energy shifted, pulsing in response. The human inside stirred, blinking slowly as if waking from a deep sleep. A hiss of released energy filled the air, and the pod opened. The worker collapsed into Ilara's arms, dazed but alive. "Yes," she whispered, relief washing over her. But the success was short-lived. Another scream echoed from deeper in the ravine. More pods, more humans trapped. The team worked quickly, decoding and freeing them one by one. Each rescue required focus, precision, and nerves of steel. Then came the warning. A low, resonant hum, different from before, filled the ravine. The shadows shifted along the ridges. The aliens were approaching. They had noticed the humans' interference. Ryland's voice was calm but urgent. "We need to finish and retreat. Now." The team redoubled their efforts. Ilara's fingers flew over the console. Pods opened. Humans stumbled out, some injured but alive. She guided them to the safety of the hover vehicles. One alien appeared on the ridge above, its glowing eyes fixed on them. It emitted a pulse that made the ground tremble. Ilara felt a sharp vibration in her chest. The alien's presence was imposing, but she refused to panic. "Steady," she whispered to herself. "We've faced worse. Humans adapt, humans survive." Ryland signaled the team to move. They advanced in formation, shielding the rescued humans. The alien watched, then retreated slightly, seemingly assessing the situation. The team reached a narrow canyon, and Ilara spotted a natural overhang where they could hide temporarily. She guided the humans beneath it, lowering energy shields just enough to avoid detection. Breathing heavily, she looked around. Every person was alive, for now. But the reality was clear. The aliens were methodical, intelligent, and relentless. They would not give up easily. Ryland joined her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did well, Ilara." Everyone did. Humans don't give up, even in the face of the unknown. That's what they'll never understand about us. Ilara nodded, her mind racing. But why? Why the pods? Why capture humans instead of attacking? Ryland shook his head. "We don't know, but it's a test. They want to understand us. And humans fight back when tested. That's our advantage." Suddenly, a scream cut through the air again, sharper and more urgent than before. Ilara's stomach knotted. It came from deeper in the canyon. She looked at Ryland. "Another group. We can't leave them." Ryland hesitated. "It's dangerous, but yes. We try." The team advanced carefully, Ilara leading. They followed the sound, moving silently through the rocky terrain. The scream became clearer, more desperate. They rounded a bend and saw a cluster of pods more than before, glowing faintly in the darkness. Ilara's heart ached. People inside were alive but terrified. She knelt beside one pod, scanning the energy pattern. It was more complex than the others, but her determination fueled her focus. "Almost there. Almost there," she whispered. With careful adjustments, the pods opened one by one. Humans stumbled out, dazed but free. Ilara guided them toward the safety of the hover vehicles. Then came the final warning. The shadows surged across the canyon walls, faster and darker than before. The aliens had noticed fully. The hum in the air intensified, resonating through their bones. Ryland's voice cut through the tension. "Move! Go!" Ilara and the team hurried, guiding the rescued humans. The aliens watched but did not pursue recklessly. They studied, learning, calculating. The team reached the hover vehicles and transported the humans back to the colony. Safe. For now. Ilara collapsed in her seat, exhausted. Her hands were shaking, but she felt a spark of pride. Humans had survived another encounter. They had adapted, they had acted, and they had saved lives. Ryland sat beside her. "This is what I meant when I said humans adapt. We face unknown threats, and we find a way. That's our strength." Ilara nodded. She looked out at the distant hills where the shadows had vanished, leaving only darkness. The screams had ended for now, but she knew the aliens were still watching, learning, waiting for the next move. And yet, she felt hope. Humanity had faced impossible odds before and had prevailed. Tonight they had shown courage, intelligence, and compassion. Ilara whispered softly to herself and to everyone who might hear in the quiet night. "We will survive. No matter what comes, humans endure. Humans fight. Humans adapt." The shadows. In the hills seemed to pulse faintly, almost in response, as if acknowledging the humans' resilience. Somewhere, out there in the darkness, the aliens watched, learned, and planned. But the humans had survived, and that made all the difference. The colony was tense. The night had passed without attack, but the air was heavy with anticipation. Everyone knew the aliens were still out there, observing, calculating, and preparing their next move. For the humans, the time had come to stop only running and start acting. Alara stood on the observation deck, scanning the distant hills. The shadows had returned, flickering across the ridges like ghosts. Her heart raced, not with fear, but with determination. The colony had survived the first encounters. Now it was time to take control. Commander Ryland joined her, holding a tactical map. "We've learned their patterns," he said. "They scan, they test, and they retreat. But they are intelligent. We need to use that against them." Alara nodded. "What's the plan?" Ryland pointed to the hills. "We'll split the teams. One team draws them toward the valley. Another team, led by you, moves to disable their devices and free any humans they've captured." Alara's stomach tightened. "And if we're spotted?" Ryland's expression was firm. "Then we fight smart. Humans adapt, humans survive, humans win. That's what we do." The team prepared quickly. Hover vehicles were loaded with energy shields, scanners, and compact weapons. Medics and technicians were ready. Every member of the colony knew the stakes. They moved with purpose, united by courage and trust in each other. As they approached the valley, the shadows appeared again, larger and more organized. The aliens had learned from the previous encounters. They moved in perfect coordination, gliding silently across the terrain. Ilara's pulse quickened, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Stay in formation," Ryland instructed. "We move together, we protect each other, we adapt." The first wave of humans advanced into the valley. They used the terrain to their advantage, moving through craters and behind rocks, remaining hidden. The alien sensors pulsed as they scanned the area. Ilara knelt behind a boulder, scanning the field. She saw a cluster of alien devices, floating pods similar to the ones they had freed the humans from before. Inside, she could faintly make out silhouettes, people trapped again. "Commander," she whispered into her comm. "I see more pods. We can free them, but it will be dangerous." Ryland's voice was calm. "That's why you're leading this team. We'll cover you. Focus on freeing them." Ilara took a deep breath. "Okay, let's do this." The team advanced cautiously. Each step was calculated, every movement considered. The aliens observed, but they did not attack immediately. They seemed curious, analyzing the humans' actions. Ilara reached the first pod. The energy pulse was stronger than before, but she remembered the pattern she had decoded earlier. Fingers flying over her portable console, she adjusted the signals, matching the rhythm of the alien energy. The pod hissed, lights dimmed, and the human inside slowly moved. A worker stumbled out, dazed but alive. Ilara guided them to a safe zone behind a ridge. One by one, the pods opened. The team worked with precision, freeing humans while avoiding detection. The aliens began to notice. Shadows shifted, moving closer but not yet attacking. They were calculating, learning, just as humans had predicted. Suddenly, one alien approached a pod, its glowing appendage scanning the area. Ilara froze, her mind racing. If it discovered them now, the operation could fail. "Distract it," Ryland shouted. A soldier activated a flare, sending a bright light into the air. The alien paused, momentarily disoriented. Ilara seized the moment, finishing the last pod override. "The humans were free. Move," she commanded. The team retreated toward the hover vehicles. The aliens adjusted quickly, their shadows stretching across the valley, moving faster than ever. Pulses of energy vibrated through the ground, trying to slow them down. Ilara's vehicle jolted as a pulse struck nearby. Sparks flew, but she pressed forward, focusing on the path ahead. The rescued humans were inside, some weak, some shaken, but alive. Ryland guided another team through a narrow canyon to intercept the aliens. They set traps using drones, energy nets, and environmental obstacles. Rocks and boulders were rigged to fall, slowing the alien advance. Ilara looked back as the traps went off. The aliens hesitated, their calculations disrupted by human ingenuity. "It's working," she whispered. Humans had turned their fear into strategy. The hover vehicles raced back toward the colony. The aliens did not give chase recklessly. They observed, adapted, and recalculated. They were intelligent, yes, but humans were unpredictable, creative, and determined. As they neared the colony, alarms blared. Sensors detected more movement on the outer perimeter. Ilara gritted her teeth. The aliens were testing the defenses. Ryland's voice came through her comm. Hold your positions. Prepare the shields. Be ready to protect the rescued humans. The team deployed the energy shields, forming a protective barrier. The aliens approached cautiously, their glowing eyes scanning for weakness. They moved as if calculating the humans' next moves. Alara stood beside a shield generator, her heart pounding. She glanced at the rescued humans, their faces pale but grateful. We've got this, she whispered to herself. Humans survive. Humans fight. The first alien reached the barrier. It emitted a pulse that shook the ground, but the shield held. The alien paused, observing the humans behind the protection. It seemed to hesitate, almost as if considering retreat. Alara saw an opening. Using her scanner, she targeted the alien devices controlling the pods and emitted a counter-frequency. The devices flickered, then shut down. The humans trapped in the pods were released, stumbling forward into safety. A cheer erupted among the humans. The aliens recoiled, retreating to the hills, their glowing eyes fixed on the colony. They had not been defeated, but humans had proven they could resist, adapt, and fight back. Ryland approached Alara, placing a hand on her shoulder. You did well, he said. Humans can survive anything as long as we work together. Alara nodded, feeling a mix of exhaustion and triumph. We saved them, and we held our ground. Ryland looked toward the hills. They will return. But they will remember tonight. And we will be ready. Alara gazed at the horizon. The shadows were fading, but she could feel the alien presence lingering. They had learned something about humanity tonight, our courage, our ingenuity, and our unbreakable spirit. The colony began to regroup. Medics attended the rescued humans, repairing injuries and offering comfort. Technicians repaired the hover vehicles and reinforced the energy shields. Everyone moved with purpose, united by the shared experience of survival and victory. Alara took a moment to stand on the observation deck, looking out at the valley below. The stars were bright, the twin suns already setting behind the mountains. The wind carried the faint hum of the alien devices, a reminder that this was not over, but she smiled quietly. Humans had faced impossible odds before. They had survived plagues, wars, and disasters. And tonight they had faced something entirely unknown, and they had won. Humans endure, she whispered to herself. Humans fight. Humans survive. Ryland joined her again. That's right, he said softly. And that is what makes us unstoppable. Alara nodded, feeling a deep sense of pride. She thought of the rescued humans, the team, and the colony. Their courage, teamwork, and quick thinking had made all the difference. Somewhere in the hills, the aliens observed, calculating their next move. But humans had learned as well. Humans had adapted. Humans had shown that even in the face of fear, they could act with intelligence, strategy, and heart. Alara turned back to the command center. The night was far from over, but she knew one thing for certain. Humans would not give up. Humans would fight, and humans would survive. The colony woke to another day under twin suns, bright and sharp, but the mood was different. Fear still lingered in the air, but it was tempered by determination, pride, and the knowledge that humans had survived and fought back. Alara stood on the observation deck, scanning the distant hills where the shadows of the aliens had last been seen. For several hours, nothing moved. The alien presence had not vanished, but the immediate threat had retreated. Humans had survived another encounter, and this time they had acted with courage and intelligence. Commander Ryland joined her, holding a tactical map marked with yesterday's operations. They didn't expect us to adapt this quickly, he said. We've shown them humans are not easy targets. They learn, but so do we, Alara nodded. We freed everyone. No one was lost this time. Ryland's eyes softened slightly. That's humanity. Courage, ingenuity, compassion. We fight, we adapt, and we protect each other. Alara glanced at the colony below, where workers and medics moved quickly, restoring equipment, repairing damaged vehicles, and tending to the rescued humans. The atmosphere was one of quiet triumph. Even in the face of fear, humans had acted with intelligence and solidarity. We need to study what we learned, Ryland continued. The aliens will return. They always do. But we now know their patterns, their devices, and their limits. Humans can use that knowledge. Alara's mind raced. The pods, the energy pulses, the coordinated movements of the aliens, they were dangerous, yes, but not invincible. Humans had seen the weakness in their technology, and that gave them hope. "We can prepare defenses, build countermeasures, even anticipate their next moves," she said. Rylan nodded approvingly. "Exactly. And that's why humans survive where others might fail. We think, we adapt, we act." The day passed with repair work, training exercises, and careful observation of the surrounding terrain. Drones patrolled the perimeter, recording any unusual movements. Engineers worked on improving the energy shields and creating decoys to confuse the aliens. The colonists worked together seamlessly, showing resilience and determination in the face of uncertainty. By mid-afternoon, Ilara joined a small team heading to the hills to investigate the last positions of the alien shadows. The terrain was rugged, with craters and jagged rock stretching as far as the eye could see. The hills were eerily silent, but the energy readings suggested the aliens were still nearby, observing from a distance. "Stay alert," Rylan instructed. "They're intelligent. They may try to ambush us if we are careless." Ilara led the team carefully, scanning for signs of the alien devices or movement. They discovered remnants of energy pods, some damaged, others disabled by the humans' countermeasures. It was clear that the aliens had underestimated human creativity and resourcefulness. "This is their technology," one of the technicians said, examining a pod. "We can study this, learn from it, and improve our defenses." "Humans can turn this to our advantage," Ilara nodded. "Every encounter teaches us something. They may be strong, but humans adapt. Humans survive." As the sun began to set, the team returned to the colony with the remnants of the alien devices. The workers greeted them with relief and quiet pride. Ilara saw the faces of those she had rescued, grateful yet inspired. Humans had faced impossible odds and had prevailed. That evening, the colony gathered in the central plaza. Rylan addressed everyone, his voice strong and steady. "Today we proved that humanity endures. We faced a force unlike anything we've known, and we did not falter. We acted with courage, intelligence, and solidarity. Humans survive because we adapt, because we think, and because we never give up." The crowd erupted in quiet applause. Ilara looked around, feeling a deep sense of connection to everyone present. They were more than a colony. They were a living example of human resilience. Later, as darkness settled over the hills, Ilara returned to the observation deck. She gazed at the horizon, imagining the shadows watching from afar, calculating their next move. Yet she felt no fear, only resolve. "They'll return," she whispered to herself. "But we'll be ready. Humans adapt, humans fight, humans survive." Rylan joined her once more. "You've done well, Ilara. You led the rescue operations, guided the team, and saved lives. You embody what humans are capable of." Ilara smiled faintly. "We all did it together. That's what makes us strong. One person cannot survive alone. Humanity survives when we act as one." Rylan nodded. "And that is the lesson they will never understand. Humans endure because we fight, because we care, and because we never give up, even when the odds seem impossible." As the stars appeared in the sky above Veralia Prime, a calm settled over the colony. The immediate danger had passed, and humans had triumphed through courage, ingenuity, and cooperation. The alien presence was still out there, but it had learned something important. Humans were not weak, predictable, or easy to manipulate. Ilara thought about the rescued humans, the team, and the entire colony. Each act of bravery, each quick decision had contributed to their survival. They had faced fear, uncertainty, and overwhelming odds, and they had overcome them. In the quiet of the observation deck, Ilara allowed herself a moment of reflection. Humanity had always faced challenges, from hostile planets to deadly environments, from disease to conflict. And yet, time and time again, humans had endured. Tonight had proven it once more. A faint hum in the distance reminded her that the aliens were still watching. They had learned, just as humans had learned, but the humans had adapted faster, thought creatively, and acted decisively. That was the difference. That was the essence of humanity. Ilara took a deep breath, feeling pride, hope, and determination. She knew the aliens would return, that the battle was far from over, but she also knew this: humans would continue to fight, continue to survive, and continue to grow stronger with every challenge. "Humans endure," she whispered. "Humans fight. Humans survive." Rylan looked at her, a faint smile on his face. Yes, and that is why humanity will always prevail. We are strong not because of our weapons, not because of our technology, but because of our courage, our ingenuity, and our unbreakable spirit. Ilara gazed at the distant hills one last time before returning inside. The colony was alive with quiet energy. Repairing, preparing, and learning. Humans had faced the unknown and had proven themselves. They had shown that even in the darkest moments, courage, intelligence, and compassion could guide them to triumph. The night passed peacefully, the twin suns rising again over the horizon. Ilara knew the aliens were still out there, watching and learning. But she also knew that humans had proven something undeniable. No matter the odds, no matter the threat, humanity would endure. Humanity would fight. Humanity would survive. And somewhere in the distance, in the silent hills, the shadows moved, watching, calculating, and learning. But they would never forget what they had witnessed tonight, what humans were capable of when united by courage, intelligence, and hope. Ilara took one last look at the horizon. Her heart swelled with pride. Humanity had survived. Humanity had triumphed, and humanity would continue to do so no matter what came next.